there's just a lot of it that's still going to be tested. And I have to tell you, when the county law went away, the city law went away, that where they had ordinances that said you can't have a loaded firearm in a city park in whatever town it is, or in a county park, whatever county it is, not all the park rangers and all the cities and towns agree with that. So it is possible, until there are some court tests of that you may still get cited by a local park ranger, particularly, or something, because he doesn't know, they didn't tell him, don't enforce this law, and he's going to cite you anyway. There will be an affirmative defense there when you go to court, obviously, that, 3 months ago, the state legislature said that law is not valid, but that doesn't prevent the officer from writing a citation.
Right.
So if that happens to you and the officers, supervisors haven't given them the word, they haven't changed their policy, just sign the ticket and call Alan and he'll fix it.
Well, a lot of times the city attorney or county attorney catches that kind of thing, and the party whose side gets a notice of dismissal. It'll work itself out.
Yeah, it's just not filtering down through. That law may be important to you if you carry a gun in the park all the time. It's not going to be a big deal to the park ranger. They didn't have a big meeting and say, you don't do this, because their legal counsel has to tell them that's okay and so forth. It takes a little bit of time to get this in. But those laws are voided at the moment, as near as we can tell.
Do you consider these changes pretty big?
Oh, absolutely. Very, very pro-gun. This was a great legislature for the gun industry, for gun owners in general. The only thing we didn't get was campus carry. And if you've been reading the papers, that was fought over, and the university system was absolutely against it. The shooters groups absolutely for it. It affected really a very small number of people, because it only affected people that had a concealed weapon permit, which means you had to be 21, and that are going to a university or higher education thing somewhere here in Nevada. There's a few hundred people that restricts from carrying a gun on campuses. Nobody else was carrying one anyway, and now they can't, which is not a good thing. But being as what we got for the gun owning public, it was great. And if that was a trade we have to make, that was a good thing. All you guys wanted to carry on campus, I know that was a bad thing. And it will leave campuses gun-free zones. Nobody but a uniformed officer with the university police, whatever, will be carrying on campus. The bad guys know that. So the downside is to all you students at UNLV and Reno that could become crime targets, because the bad guys know you can't legally carry your firearm on campus. Unfortunately, we had another shooting, and as you're all aware, we're going to talk about in a few minutes, in South Carolina, which was a gun-free zone, a church that did not allow firearms in by their decision not to allow firearms in their church. These guys always hit places that are gun-free zones, and that's a tragedy we're all trying to get our head around at the moment. But anyway, that's where we are with that sort of thing. We always start this show off with a couple of shooting cases to discuss self-defense issues. There are roughly 200 times a day somebody uses a gun in the United States somewhere to defend themselves against a criminal attack, or defend others against a criminal attack. And the media very rarely picks them up. So there's a few. I have one of these carnivore programs that picks them up all over the place. And I pick out 2 or 3 at random because I think of the good cases to discuss where the holes are and what goes on. This, again, if you want to send in a question or comment, bob@firedupmail.com, and I'll take a look at those at about the half hour in a couple minutes here. The Tennessean in Hermitage, Tennessee, reported on the 6th. A local resident here arrived home just after 3 a.m. he noticed an individual standing next to his house and another individual climbing a fence out to get out of his backyard. After seeing the resident pull up, the suspects ran across the street. The resident followed in his vehicle and told them to stop. They ran, so he attempted to chase the two down in his car. As he was doing that, the resident said one of the suspects pulled a handgun and pointed it at him. He was armed, and the driver was the resident, and he fired a shot in self-defense, he said to the police. One of the suspects stumbled, but both continued to run and actually got away. It is unknown if the suspect was hit by the gunshot. There is no report of anyone with a gunshot wound turning themselves into the police or finding a hospital or so that would be associated with the incident. The canine dogs were used to track the guy. They weren't successful, the two guys. It appears from the evidence at the house that a vehicle and the shed at the home were broken into, and the guys are gone. We don't know for sure. It appeared to the homeowner that he hit one of them. A couple things here. No harm, no foul, apparently. One of the things you got to realize when you chase suspects, sometimes they shoot at you.
I can't help but offer a little free advice to anybody who's listening, and that would be, unless there is the most exigent, extraordinarily compelling reasons, do not chase anyone with a gun.
Well,
ever.
Let me ask you, if in this case, and we're going to take this hypothetical, this is what really happened. He fired at him, and we don't know what happened. But had one of the bad guys pulled a gun, now we're off the guy's property, he's chasing in his car, bad guy pulls a gun, fires, and fires, and the homeowner fires, and we have a gunfight. Who's got the self-defense claim?
Well, both, because you have, one of the first techniques of neutralization or avoidance or defense that one uses is to accuse the accuser. And the obvious cross accusations here are this poor pair of ne'er-do-wells that were out, lost and trying to find their dog, were chased by this maniac with a gun, and they turned to defend themselves and shot, and then the gunfight ensued. So everybody's going to be looking at some serious problems. So, like I said, if you can avoid chasing somebody with a gun, by all means do it.
Yeah, that would seem to be, I know we always talk in class when we tell them whoever supplied the force to bring the parties together is the initial one that has to prove, he was defending himself when he was the one who closed the distance, kind of thing.
Well, that initial aggressor issue comes up.
And it's I can see that being a problem. This is from 11 Alive TV in Atlanta, Georgia. This is on the 18th, a couple days ago. Henry County. A suspect was caught trying to steal some items from a homeowner's boat and shed around 11:30 p.m. The Henry County Police responded to this home on Lehigh Drive in Ellenwood, Georgia. The homeowner came home from work, and his dog alerted him to a burglar in the carport where he stored his boat. Henry County Police Lieutenant said at some point, the guy who was armed, he got his gun out. He's holding the suspect at gunpoint, and he called the police. At some point, the subject made an aggressive move, not detailed out in the report, toward the homeowner. He felt like he needed to defend himself, and he fired his gun. He shot the burglar in the stomach. This was the second time this guy's home had been burglarized. Last November, a neighbor says someone stole his pickup truck and then used it to transport goods stolen from this guy, the shooter's house, earlier on. So this is the second burglary. The police haven't identified the burglar who was shot because he's not been charged yet. They said he suffered serious injuries but will survive. Police said they won't charge the homeowner. Now, so this guy says the guy lunged at him, which probably happened. a little problem here. The criminal being held at gunpoint didn't want to wait for the police to come and get taken to jail. So he apparently tried to jump the homeowner. If you're in this situation, obviously you're trying to hold somebody at gunpoint. You need to keep your distance, don't get close enough that he can slap the gun away and so on. This story caught my eye because a neighbor, the same guy who explained that his friend, the neighbor, had this prior burglary and so forth. The press was there and they interviewed the neighbor, the helpful neighbor, who said, let me get this right, you do just like everybody else. You make sure you light them up if you have a chance, but you have to have something legal to light them up with. It's a good thing this wasn't the homeowner himself saying something like that. I mean, this guy's comment made the paper because he's talking to the press on behalf of his friend, that when you get a chance to light them up, light them up.
Yeah, I choose your spokespersons carefully.
That's I can see this in court, and they're saying, "Do you agree with your neighbor who said, well, sure, light them up?" You know,
what kind of beer was he drinking when he said that?
I really didn't want to fire. My life was in danger. You know, not light them up if you get a chance. Bad idea. WTVD TV in Hope Mills, North Carolina. This is on the 18th. Cumberland County Sheriff's Office investigating shooting left a suspect Robert dead and a man wounded. This took place at 1:30 a.m. Three men approached the resident as he was getting into his vehicle and pointed a gun, demanded his money. The victim pulled a revolver from his vehicle and started shooting. The robbers returned fire. They hit the victim in the abdomen. The three robbers then fled on foot. One of them was found on the same street, dead, wearing latex gloves with a gunshot wound in the chest. Apparently, the homeowner hit him. He was pronounced dead at the scene. The robbery victim was taken to a local medical center. Is expected to survive. Deputies are searching the neighborhood for the two other suspects. A sheriff's spokesman said the men should be considered armed and dangerous, and anyone who comes in contact with them should call 911 right away, of course. Self-defense here saved the victim. He is getting into his car at 1:30 a.m. in the morning. Three guys walk up and accost him with firearms, attempting to rob him. Obviously, that could be avoided if you're paying attention. This kind of struck me because we have a guy walking out to his car at 1:30 a.m. and three guys get close enough to him to stick a gun in his face and demand his wallet. We'll talk about that a little bit after the break, but pay attention when you're walking around. If you're going out to your car at night, look around, see what's happening, and listen. Yeah, get your head away from your cell phone. We'll be back right after a little news break. Don't go away.
257-KDWN. That's 257-5396.
Hey, we are back here on Fired Up. A reminder that the gun store here, we do offer free concealed carry permit classes every Monday, Wednesday, and Saturday. You can find those classes and actually sign up online if you hit our website, thegunstorelasvegas.com. There's a click there for classes, and you can actually sign up online and come get some free training. All-day class. The only thing we charge you for is the ammunition when you qualify, and that'll be $20 or $25 depending on the caliber of your gun. And away you go, and the class is free, and we encourage you to come in and get the training so you don't end up being one of these guys that ends up on this list of things. Why did he do that? There is, I'm going to do one more shooting story because I really do want, this one had a lot of stuff to it. This is WTVY TV in Fort Walton Beach, Florida. An attempted burglary was sorted by an armed homeowner. In talking to the victim, the investigators say only one individual actually had tried to enter the house. The intruder was hit multiple times when the resident shot him. The resident on Carmel Drive said two men tried to force their way into his home about 12:30 p.m. The intended victim said one of the men was armed with a gun. He was able to get his firearm, fired multiple shots at the suspects. Both men were hit. The investigation actually, though, showed a little different. Only one of the two suspects actually entered the home. The other one stayed in the car. The second man in the car was hit by the gunfire, and that's being the subject of the investigation, whether he was hit with a stray bullet or perhaps the homeowner ran outside and shot him too. The guy altered his story a little bit because both guys were hit to get away from what we were just talking about. Don't chase the guy, perhaps. Anyway, they're both being treated, and they're looking for more information on the investigation. A couple of things here. This is reported as an armed burglary. That probably keeps the crime stats down in Fort Walton, Florida. We would call it a home invasion if somebody comes in your house with a gun to steal stuff. This is not a stealth crime, burglary. This is a home invasion. It's a good shooting, but it appears that the homeowner tried to make it better by saying the second subject was also in the home, and obviously the guy wasn't, apparently. The crime lab, if you say I shot somebody here in my living room and he ran out the door and got in this car, there's going to be evidence that he was in your home. The blood on the carpet, you know, the gunshot residue, all sorts of things are going to be around to tell the investigators where the guy was standing when he got shot, which is apparently what the police picked up immediately. So the guy is making the story better. It's probably a fine shooting, although he may have run out the house and shot the guy waiting in the car. There is no such thing as a perfect shooting. After any engagement like this, you're going to look at the facts, and especially in your wound up state of mind, and want to make it better. Isn't it okay, counselor, to make it just a little bit better when you explain to the cops what happened?
No, but I think your wound up state is something that I was thinking about when I read the story, and you would know as well as anyone, Bob, what is the effect of the adrenaline in the moment where you are defending your life and you're shooting your firearm? I mean, the future retrospective analysis is going to be forever. Your moments of clarity are so important there.
Yeah, they're going to know what happened. And you're liable to say something that your brain tends to fill in the blanks. If you don't remember it happening, don't say it happened. If there's a guy over there with a bullet hole in him, don't say, well, I don't know. If you don't remember going over and shooting him, you don't remember firing at him, leave it alone. Just, you know,
don't talk to people after you shoot your firearm except your attorney. Okay, that's it.
They're gonna, you need to. You're not being a criminal by saying I don't want to talk to you until I calm down. Here's my driver's license. This is my house. I live here. That's it. Do you know this guy? I don't want to even get into that till I talk to my lawyer. And that's it.
Not because you're hiding anything. You just need to think very long and hard about what you say after you shut your fire.
Because it's permanent, and if the evidence doesn't match.
It's going on your permanent record, mister.
Yeah. I've got to address in this show the murders in Carolina. It's all over the news. I don't think anybody knows everything that happened or what happened exactly. More stuff keeps coming out. If you read the initial reports, it's like any other shooting. First, his father gave him the gun, and then it turns out now the story is father gave him some money for Christmas, for a birthday, and then he went and bought a gun. Who knows? What I do know is at this stage that we don't have a lot of facts. We have watched the reports on television. You will see reporters interviewing each other. And they weren't there. And they all just get on the other guy's opinion, and we have no idea what happened. I can tell you a couple things that didn't happen. Our current president, the couple of left-wing wannabe presidents in the Bloomberg group are trying to blame this whole thing on the firearms or the guy's firearm. The rule is never let a disgusting, murderous, rampage, criminal act go to waste when you want to make points about guns. From what we know, apparently the creep got some money and went to a local gun shop and bought a .45 caliber pistol. He passed the background check. So all this crud about background checks stopping crime, if that's really true, then we have another case of background checks don't do any good because they didn't know that he was going to do this. So the background check would have been a waste of time, or it was a waste of time if he passed it. This coward took advantage of a gun-free zone. This is a self-imposed by the church. The minister, who unfortunately was killed, was not the most pro-gun guy in the world, didn't want firearms on church property. Did it keep the victim safe, the gun-free zone? Obviously not. Did it prevent somebody in the church from having a gun to defend these people? Probably. It appears that a number of associates or family members knew this kid was a racist wacko of some sort. Did anybody say anything to anybody? Apparently not. We may find later that they were aware of him and just nobody did anything about it. But the anti-gun groups are using some twisted logic here that only by disarming the rest of us can they prevent these types of things from happening. It wasn't the rest of us that did this. It was a wacko who went through the system. I doubt we're ever going to know all the real facts with this case. The ones that are helpful to the anti-gun people will come out. The ones that aren't helpful probably won't come out. What we know of what happened is that gun laws didn't prevent this from happening. And I have no reason to believe that more gun laws will prevent the next one either. We need to put the blame where it is, which is squarely on the person who did this, not on the rest of America that owns guns. I can do editorial comment here because it's my show. So I don't know if you want to jump in on this. Probably not.
It's a tragic circumstance, and what else can you say?
It's a horrible, horrible thing. Our thoughts and prayers go out to the victims, and
It's pretty impressive. What I heard recently was, and yesterday mostly, was that the family was pretty much in a state of, and the relatives of the deceased were just expressing their forgiveness for the whole situation. I thought wonderful. This was a real credible example of
we are
Christianity.
Drowned in wackos, and Anyway, you're going to hear taking the guns away from the rest of us would prevent this, and obviously it's not. But anyway, Second Amendment Foundation won a preliminary injunction in gun law stuff here against the District of Columbia and their police chief. The District of Columbia was forced a bit ago to issue concealed weapon permits, and what the courts told them and what they agreed to was to be a shall issue, that if the person doesn't have a criminal history, they could get a concealed carry permit. And what they've done now is they have arbitrarily delayed. You go and apply, and they say, we're looking into it, and then they have a committee that decides whether you should get a permit or not. That did not meet the court's standard for issuing concealed carry permits. So a couple of them sued through some of the pro-gun groups, the Second Amendment Foundation being the big one. And they got a court order from a judge that said, a federal judge that said, you cannot arbitrarily turn people down and you must proceed. This committee that decides if you should really get one or not isn't what the judge had in mind, and there's no appeal to their edict. If they say no, it's no, and they don't have to give you a reason. So that obviously doesn't comply with the court's ruling. So now they have said, when the judge said you can't arbitrarily just decline somebody because they don't have a good reason to get a permit, the whole point was they don't have to have a reason to get a permit other than that they want one. So now they're sitting there in violation of a federal judge's order, and their contention to the court through their attorney is they're still studying the compliance with the judge's order instead of doing it. I don't know if any of us could get away with, if a judge said you have to do this, we could say, well, I'm going to study your order for a while. I'm not really going to do it yet, but I'll let you know. There's a federal judge, and we may find some of the city fathers in D.C. in custody of federal marshals here shortly if they don't do something about it. They're just ignoring the law, and they're ignoring the judge, and it's gone beyond what the legal issues are. It's the judge say, I told you to do this. Don't tell me you're studying my order. Either appeal it, which they didn't, or do what I told you. Anyway, that remains to be seen. You ever heard of that? Telling a federal judge, I'm studying your order?
Well, I think that, the normal course would be to seek a stay of the order pending an appeal, and either you obtain that stay or not. And you can't pick and choose what aspects of the order you're going to follow, or you will find yourself in contempt. So this is a dangerous game that the people are playing, and I'm sure that the federal judge is going to give some reasonable amount of time for them to fall into compliance, and then if they don't, he will hammer them.
At some point, he's going to say,
bring down the hammer.
Present your city council at the federal jail, and
Yes.
we will check you in. I couldn't imagine saying that.
Study my order from the confines of your cell.
Yeah, there's more reading time here. You can use the prison library. It's just, they just don't want to issue permits, and they're stuck with it. There's a constitutional right to keep and bear arms, and the court decision have said you have a right to keep and bear arms. And those the Heller decisions over obviously apply to Washington D.C. But it's like, I didn't even go to law school, and I think so. But what do I know? A note here that we are officially lead-free at the gun store. If you want to come and shoot a gun someplace where you don't want to get poisoned or run the risk of all the bad stuff that lead causes, we have a lead-free range. It's safe to bring children in here, and they won't get lead
So
poisoning.
if I'm going to fill somebody full of lead, I can't do it at your store.
You cannot do it here.
Okay.
We only sell lead-free ammo, which will ruin all the cowboy movies saying, I'm going to fill you full of lead.
What do you fill them full of at your
We're
store?
filling them full of powdered copper.
Oh, okay.
It's
Just doesn't have the same.
going to fill you. Remember that Magnificent Seven when Yul Brynner says, we deal in lead, friend,
Powdered copper.
we deal in copper, just doesn't have the same ring to it. But Anyway, good thing, lead-free ammo keeps the environment clean. Actually, our last inspection, we had some outside monitors come in and discover that the air in our ranges was cleaner than the air outside the building, because it's next to Tropicana, and there's fumes from lead and gasoline or whatever. So if you're tired of smoking traffic, come into our range and breathe the air. This is another thing that this just came up. This is an Indiana state law just passed today, actually. It repeals the state's ban on possession of short barrel shotguns, sawed-off shotguns. And they made a big deal in some, I pulled a couple of the Indiana papers, they made a big deal that now it's lawful to have a sawed-off shotgun in Indiana. And what they missed, of course, is it didn't change the federal law. It only changed the state law. Like I just warned you about carrying your gun in your car, driving across the dam. In Nevada, law didn't change what the federals do. You still have to register a sawed-off shotgun, anything less than 18 inches, with the federal government if it's a $200 transfer tax on making it or buying one. What the law actually allows is people in Indiana to get the federal permits, because Indiana had a law that said you couldn't have a short barrel shotgun. But when some of the news people wrote it up, they didn't know that, and they just wrote the story that now it's legal to have a shotgun with a barrel less than 18 inches if you live in Indiana. And I can see everybody at their kitchen table with the hacksaw, doing this. There's a federal rule about that. If you're listening to this from Indiana, your gun dealer can give you a Form 1, or you can get one through the BATF website, atf.gov. That is an application to make such a weapon, and then you can send in your $200. They'll send you back permission to make it, and then you can make it after you get the permit back in the mail. They're kind of good for house defense, and things like that. That's why police use short barrel entry guns. But don't just go make your own in Indiana quite yet. Right now, it takes about 6 to 7 months to get the approval out of the federal government to make that short barrel shotgun. And there's a background check and fingerprints and all that. But if you're a clean citizen, you can do it. And it's just, buy the shotgun you want to saw off, and just don't saw it off until you get the phone back from the government. Your local gun dealer can show you how to do that, or batf.gov. You'll find that information. This is a guy in the airport in Atlanta. This is a week and a half ago, and I didn't get it on the air. He was exercising his Second Amendment rights by carrying his AR-15 with a 120-round drum strapped on his back to pick up somebody or drop somebody off at the airport in Atlanta, the third busiest airport in the United States, or first busy or something. It's huge. Anyway, he walked into the world's busiest airport. It said in the article. Maybe that's just George's opinion, but anyway, walked in with his AR-15 with his drum slung across his chest. And oddly enough, the law enforcement in the airport were curious about that. So they walked over, and he was taking his wife and daughter to the airport to go on vacation. So this is the federal state thing. And Georgia law says you can do that. You can carry a gun into an airport as long as you don't go into the secure area of the airport. So using that, he went into the unsecure part of the airport. Well, believe it or not, the state police who were there went, there's a guy with an AR with a big drum magazine walking around the airport. Maybe we should talk to him. So they went up and said, hi, how you doing? And he explained that, to make a long story short, that he could do this legally. And they said, well, yeah, we just want to see who you are, and, can we see your ID and know your name, and we'll run your background and just make sure everything's cool here. And so they did that, and they ran him, and he came out fine. He was detained 12 or 15 minutes while they did that, and they let him go. And now he's trying to sue the airport for harassing him. Even Montel Williams, who's, he's a ex-SEAL and whatnot, in his show, came out with a statement on this. Says he's a proud gun owner. I don't dispute the law says the guy can do this, carry his AR into the airport, but I think it's a little irresponsible. He just trying to prove something, and you're making all the gun guys look like idiots. You know,
I've
because
never
it's
had a wife
illegal.
that would allow me to do something that stupid. How about you? I mean, the guy's wife was with him.
Yeah.
What would your wife say, Bob? You know, let's take off the AR-15 before we go to the airport. Maybe.
Well, you would think, but you know, this is obviously somebody just showboating gun rights, and it makes us all look like wackos.
Yeah.
If you have a gun, please don't do that. You're not going to get gun rights by getting stories about us gun owners doing something that's dumb in an airport. That's dumb. Anyway, unlike Nevada, Texas, the governor just signed a bill to carry guns on campus. Texas now allows you to carry concealed weapons, concealed firearms on the campuses, and it went through 102 votes against 43. The Senate passed it 20-11. The governor signed it this week. And now you can carry a gun if you wish when you go to the university, any universities in Texas, and it's state law. And now we'll see if there's lots of crime.
My friend Wild Bill is a professor at Texas A&M, and last week we spoke about the subject, and he said he's concerned about it because in the event that there is an issue that happens in the classroom, you've got one bad guy and 30 other good guys with guns. Who's going to know the difference when the smoke clears?
Well, because the bad guy will be the one full of holes. And, yeah, when I was in college, I went to Oregon Tech in Klamath Falls, Oregon. This is back in 1962, and the sheriff there, through corruption, basically issued a concealed weapon permit to anybody who was 18 years old, that someone in the town that knew the sheriff and knew the person would sign he's okay. And I was 18 years old, out-of-state student at Oregon Tech. I heard that, had one of my teachers sign off, you know, he's a good kid. I just moved there from LA like a week ago, but yeah, I'm good, he knows me. And I gave him my 50 cents and I got a concealed carry permit. You know, there were, at the time, with 20,000 people living in Klamath County, most of whom lived in Klamath Falls, a city, there were over 10,000 permits issued. In 62, that was a lot of money. You're talking $5,000 the sheriff put in his pocket. But the point is that all these people were carrying guns, and two guys from out of town where I was there robbed a liquor store in the middle of Main Street, and they backed out onto the street, out the doors, pointing their guns, yelling, and don't try to follow us or we'll kill you, you know, whatever. Turned around, and 8 people shot them.
Oh my God.
Or shot at them.
$4 worth of permits.
They didn't die. They just got 22s and whatnot here and there, and you know, because everybody on the street had a gun. It was a cute story, and you know, the version I got was kind of exaggerated, I'm sure, but it was in the local paper that 8 citizens had fired or tried to fire on these two guys standing in the middle of Main Street. It's cute.
Well, yeah. What's the old saying? Evil flourishes when good men do nothing.
And good men did something. A couple of ending notes. We've got the Las Vegas Gun Show, July 25 and 26 at the Sports Center. Henderson, August 1st and 2nd. Crossroads at Cashman again on the 29th and 30th. And Rocky Mountain back. Next one is September 5 and 6. We have discontinued the show on Pursuit Network that was on Thursday mornings at dark 30. We are no longer there. It's eventually going to be replaced by what you're seeing now. When this gets on the air with a little better cameras, a little better sound system, this will go nationwide on YouTube and on the Fired Up with Bob Irwin channel. It'll be on our website. I don't know if we're getting there today. Are we getting onto YouTube today for this one? We are. It should be up on YouTube. You're listening to it now. You can't see it, but if it goes right in an hour or so, it should be up on our YouTube channel. And it's going up right now, live. Oh, no kidding. You can't talk on the air. No, we're the town. Thanks for listening. We will be back next week at 6 p.m. with more stuff and better cameras and better sound. Thanks for listening to Fired Up. Stop by the gun store and buy some.
Bye, Bob.
Good night. Thank you for appearing, Alan. We're
That was
going to
fun.
do some chat.
All right, thanks, Bob. I'll see you in a couple weeks.
All right, sir. Have a good vacation. We'll try and get better quality when you're not here.
Definitely will. Looking forward to it, Bob.
Thanks, Clyde.
Catch
Bye.
you later.